Talk a little football with Albert Breer now. Albert, welcome. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Mike?
Good, thank you. All right, let me start with Tua because the videos circulating today have him looking pretty good. Now, again, he's got to go through the battery of the deeper test for the doctors and see if that hip is going to hold up to scrutiny. But he is going to be the key to this now at 3, at 4, at 5, at 3
Yep.
maybe. So, I mean, I got to figure there's at least somebody, maybe more. Even the Dolphins trying to protect somebody from getting up to 3, and they moved from 5 to 3. How big do you think the market's going to be for Tua when the draft comes?
You know, it's funny because it's going to be a little bit of a shell game because there's going to be less information out there than there normally is. With the combine medical recheck not happening, with teams having an inability to meet with them, you're going to have to sort of go on what they give you, on what Tua and his medical people give you, and obviously there's a little bit of, well, this is coming from his people, so there's definitely going to be a leap of faith that's going to need to be taken there on some level with Tua, and then the question becomes how much the teams involved like him, and is somebody going to get antsy and say we need to trade up to get him? So that could be the Dolphins. Just basically guessing that, all right, the Chargers are going to come up behind us. It could be the Chargers sitting there saying we need to get in front of the Dolphins. It could be, I don't know, the Raiders saying, well, we really like them enough that we're willing to take the risk, so let's move up past both of them. And that puts, the Lions, I think, in a really interesting situation at 3, and the Giants, if the Lions really fell in love with, say, a Jeff Okudah or an Isaiah Simmons, the Giants then in an interesting situation at 4 if he is to slip. And so, there's the normal intrigue, Mike, like there always is, over, what's going to happen with, where a player's stock is on each team's board and everything else. But I'd say even more so now, just because, teams will probably have maybe a little bit of a different take on the information they get on Tua.
All right, in the aftermath of the whole Brady thing, you have Winston, you have Newton,
Yep.
And you have the Pats. Winston first. Is there a market for Winston, and if so, where?
As a starter, no. And I think, in a certain way, he got outfoxed a little bit by Marcus Mariota, and then I think the Raiders would have been a nice landing spot for him in that, he'd get coached through John Gruden, he'd get a chance to develop a little bit more. They've got good quarterback infrastructure there, with Greg Olsen also there. And then, you'd have a chance maybe to play if Derek Carr falters. That's off the table now, but I think he needs to find a place that's similar to that. And part of that's going to be recalibrating expectations, knowing I'm not going to be a starter. I'm not going to make huge money. I need to go somewhere that's going to be good for me professionally, where I can develop for a year and put myself in a good position career-wise going forward. So, I thought all along, like Pittsburgh, if I were him,
well, that seems to be that was what I was going to ask. The Steeler rumors are pretty loud. Now, everybody wanted to be the guy who was going to go challenge Trubisky in Chicago, but Foles wound up getting that job, and Newton would have liked it. Winston would have liked it. What do you think? Do you buy into these rumors about Winston to the Steelers?
I don't know if the Steelers would do it. I think Winston would be smart to go there. And look, I think the Steelers are in an interesting spot that, it's weird to think, but Ben Roethlisberger, that class of 2004,
yep,
he's the only one left with his original team.
Yep.
Rivers is on the Colts now, and obviously Eli's retired. So, I think you look at where the Steelers are. No first round pick. They traded that for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And really, Ben's committed to them for the next 2 years, but who knows where he's going to be from a playing standpoint over the next couple of years. They do have to start looking forward and kind of taking the approach like that. The next quarterback might be needed sooner than they think. So I certainly think starting to throw darts at that dartboard if you're the Steelers would be smart. Certainly I think somebody like Jameis Winston, who former first overall pick, somebody that you can take a look at and say, we bring him in here, we'll develop him in our system for a year, give him a stable environment, see where he goes from there.
Winston's going to have to eat humble pie, but nothing like the humble pie that Cam Newton's going to have to eat. Cam Newton I mean, he has as we know, I mean, this is a guy who liked to
Yeah.
consider himself Superman. I mean, we know how he thinks of himself. This is going to be hard. Do you sense that there's a market anywhere for Cam Newton?
Well, there are two levels to this one. All right. At the first level, to me, is just the medical, which is difficult on him, and for the same reasons I just raised with Tua. It's he's got the right shoulder, he's got the left foot, and he's got 9 years of playing a certain way that's left his body beat up. And so I think because of the circumstances that we're all in this country, where you can't travel, that makes it tough on him because teams can't get their doctor's hands on him, and that's an issue for any injured player or any player with injury history right now. And then the second level too is exactly what you're talking about. I mean, this is a guy who has been used to being the centerpiece wherever he's at. He's a blue chip recruit coming out of high school, went to junior college, was a superstar there after things went the wrong way at Florida. And then, at Auburn, obviously he's there for 1 year, wins the Heisman, number one overall pick. He's a starter from day one in the NFL. So if this guy has to go and be the 20th guy on the roster, the 25th guy on the roster, how's he going to handle that?
Not well.
And if he's not, and that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like, Mike, is just like if you're the Chargers, right? If you're Anthony Lynn right now, and you're comfortable with Tyrod Taylor, maybe you're going to draft Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa in the first round. Maybe that's your plan, right? Do you want to inject Cam Newton into that, where it could be problematic for your entire roster if he's not starting? And that's sort of the issue right now, is that he not only needs to convince somebody that he's going to be healthy, he also needs to convince somebody that, he can blend in with a team when he's not the guy. And that's what I think that's what makes it a lot more difficult on him, where you almost feel like he's going to have to go somewhere where people know him. And I can tell you right now, the Redskins have no plan to pursue him. And that's obviously the connection there with Ron Rivera. And then in Buffalo, I guess it might make some sense for them to take a look at him. But do you really want to do that?
No, they're committed to that kid. He's their guy. He's their guy.
Right.
Yeah, and he's going to be durable. He's going to always be durable. That guy. He's a big, strong kid. He's going to be durable.
And you can't and that's the thing is, if you bring in Cam behind him, how long before that's a problem?
Yes, I wouldn't like that scenario at all. I think it's hard to bring him in as a backup. He's not going to play well with others. I think he's going to be very hard. I think he really is. I think Winston might be able to do it. He might not, but I don't think there's any way Cam Newton does it. I think Cam Newton's going to be a real problem.
And you sort of wonder if maybe his best play is just to kind of wait this out, and see if somebody gets hurt during camp or something.
Maybe.
I know it sounds weird because we're talking about Cam Newton, but that might be the best play. I mean, Jay Cutler faced some of those same questions a few years ago, and he winds up going to the TV booth after the Bears got rid of him, and lo and behold, that summer Ryan Tannehill gets hurt and he winds up playing for the Dolphins that year. It's almost like you'd have to have a scenario like that play out for him to be handed the starting job anywhere right now. I don't think there's a place where you say, okay, he walks into there and maybe he's a starter. The Chargers are the one that makes some sense. But if the Chargers are going to draft a quarterback, if the plan is to draft a quarterback in April, I don't know that you really want to have that mix of a high first round pick coming in at the position, young, impressionable, and then you throw Cam Newton into the mix. I'm not sure that's what you'd be looking for.
How about the Pats? Now, I know how much the Pats and the Belichick camp and the Parcells camp, they love Jacoby Brissett. They always have. That's first of all, Parcells is like his father. So I mean, we know that relationship. I know he would love to see him get moved. He obviously not going to be in Indianapolis, or they don't need him there. Do you think that's where the Pats are going, or do you think the Pats have other plans?
I think he sticks in Indianapolis, actually, Mike, because Rivers is 38, and because Brissett obviously has a lot of experience in that system now, having played for Frank Reich for 2 going on 3 years.
So you think he stays there?
I think he stays there.
Okay.
He's got the cap space to do it. I think for them, I mean, look, part of the reason why they went with Rivers is because, and I know people have speculated on Brady. I'm just telling you, like they never threw their hat in the ring on Brady, and the reason why was because they really believe in what they built the last few years there. And
then why don't they just go with Brissett?
And so, I think the idea is you want to raise the ceiling a little bit, give yourself a potential to do a little bit more in the short term. But I'm just telling you, like the luck thing threw them for a loop, no question about it. But they've built a nice roster there. The roster's gotten better. A lot of the things we were saying about them a year ago, a lot of that stuff's still true. Like as far as what they've done in building that thing up. The problem is because of Luck's retirement, they've got a problem at quarterback, and so part of the reason they went with Rivers was this is a way to kind of keep the program moving forward because the offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni, the head coach Frank Reich have a close relationship with Philip, and so they know they can bring him in, they can keep things going forward for the next year or two with Philip in there. That buys them time to find the next quarterback. So that's sort of where they're at, and I think having extra insurance to that position when you've got an older player and Jacoby Brissett makes sense, and so my thought would be Brissett sticks with the Colts, and then I think you see the Patriots sort of tread water themselves where
play Stidham.
I think Stidham's ideally they like Stidham to get his shot. They're going to make him win the job. I can tell you they kind of sniffed around Kyle Allen, who got traded from Carolina to Washington yesterday. Obviously, brought Brian Hoyer back. Their economics at the position, I think they want those to change. And really, like this year for them, I think it's going to be kind of, in part at least, about cleaning out their finances. Where they're going to take out a bunch of dead money. They got $13.5 million in dead money off the Brady contract, and sort of reset. So going into 2021, they're cleaner financially. And I think the idea here would be, over the next couple of years, finding your next quarterback, giving Stidham the chance to be that guy if he's not finding someone else. And then you go forward with the sort of financial advantage that, the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Rams have rode to Super Bowls over the last few years, where you've got a quarterback on a rookie contract and you can build the team differently around him.
How about them trading up and going to get Tua?
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I just don't know if they'd be able to. I don't know if they've got the capital to get that far up. I think they picked 23rd in the first round. They're somewhere around there.
No, they'd have to give up most of their draft to get him.
Yeah, I mean, but God, I mean, you know what? It makes some sense because Tua does have quality.
And they also deal with, and the Lions are all their guys.
Yeah, I mean, so decision making, the ability to move in the pocket, Tua has a lot of the things that Bill and Josh look for.
He'd be perfect for them. He'd be perfect for them. He would. And Saban and he knows him well too.
Yeah.
The question is, can they get him? That would be the question.
And Nick loves, and you know this. Nick loves him.
Nick's
going to give him a glowing review.
Loves him.
To Bill.
Absolutely loves him.
I just don't know. I mean, here's part of the problem for the Patriots, Mike, is that they're old in so many different areas. They've got so many areas that they've got to get younger in. I just don't know if they can afford to just sell the farm to get one player right now. I don't know that Bill would do that. But certainly I think if they were in a position to take him, yes. And my biggest question would be whether or not they've got the capital to pull it off.
And I know that Saban feels that if he's healthy, he's going to be a huge star. The question is, they just don't know if he's going to stand up. They don't know if he's going to be durable enough to play, but they know that he's going to be a star if he plays. They know that.
Well,
and who knows if he's going to be healthy enough? We just don't know.
The coaches that have been through so scouts go through there, and the scouts will talk to the coaches and everything else. And what the coaches have told the scouts over the last couple of years is they really believe that Tua projects to be like a left-handed Drew Brees in the NFL. He's that type of player.
Yeah, a cross between him and Russell Wilson, and that's pretty nice praise. It really is.
Yeah. And so I think the world of him, and it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, the durability is a huge question.
Huge question. How about Clowney? You think Clowney goes back to Seattle?
I think he does wind up back in Seattle. He's facing some. To some degree, the same issue Cam is, in that he's had microfracture surgery. His body's really beat up. And the fact that he can't go and get on a plane and take a physical with another team, I think really hurts him. So he's one where that has an effect on him. And, the other part of it is, of course, his expectations. And that, in the end in Houston, he wanted $20 million a year. He wanted what Frank Clark and DeMarcus Lawrence and all those guys got. When it wasn't there, when the Texans were unwilling to do that, it was a problem. And so I think part of this and part of the reason he's still out there, in addition to the injury history, is the fact that his expectations were set so high financially that a lot of teams just sort of said, we're okay, we'll pass on that. And so I think there's a potential there. Maybe he makes the decision, I'm going to go back to Seattle on a 1-year deal, and that way, if I play really well, maybe I can hit it big on the market next year. But I don't think that big, again, like the Frank Clark, DeMarcus Lawrence type of deal that he had been eyeing since last summer. I don't think that deal's out there for him.
We're talking about Albert Breer, of course. One last one, the Jets. Robbie Anderson, which I think is a good thing, goes to the Panthers for 2 years. Okay, yep. There are so many wide receivers in this draft. This is the deepest wide receiver draft of all time, and we're talking about starters, stars, everything. After the combines, any change in who you think the best one is, or there's a lot of debate as to who the best one is. Some people like Lamb now. Who do you think is the guy, of all the guys? I mean, there's 3 or 4 that are very close. Which one do you like?
Yeah, so it's sort of like there's part of it that sort of depends on what you're looking for. Like CeeDee Lamb, I think is sort of seen as like a DeAndre Hopkins type. Jerry Jeudy, I've heard him compared to Marvin Harrison as a route runner.
Great route runner. Great route runner.
And then you got Henry Ruggs, who is small, but like smaller, really fast guys, and he's a 4.2 guy. Smaller guys like that can just run by everybody.
Yep.
Like now, all of a sudden, because of the success the Chiefs have had with Tyreek Hill, those guys have greater value, And so I think it sort of depends on who you talk to. Some people will say you're better off taking one in the second round because there's going to be some really good players.
No question. Even the third round. But the Jets need to get a good one now. They need a good one. And they can justify taking one when they pick. They really could. There's one, and they're going to get their pick maybe of the whole litter. And there are some great wide receivers in this draft.
Yeah, well, then that's going to be what's interesting about the position the Jets are in. So I think ultimately Jeudy and Lamb are going to be the first 2 off the board, one after the other. I'm not sure which one goes first. I think those will probably be the first 2 off the board. What I would tell you, Mike, is the Jets are going to be in this interesting position where they've sort of kind of reimagined their offensive line all the way around.
Yep.
So they still need a left tackle.
Listen, they still need a stud, and they can take a stud on the first round and take a wide receiver on the second round and still hit a home run, but they're not going to get one of the special ones then.
And that's what I'm thinking is that, and it sort of depends, too, because the tackles got hot in Indianapolis, right? So you have the 4 guys at the top of the draft, Andrew Thomas from Georgia, Tristan Wirfs from Iowa, Mekhi Becton from Louisville.
Yep.
And who am I missing? There's one I'm blanking right now. Jedrick Wills from Alabama.
Yeah, I like Becton, who's enormous, but I think the Iowa kid's the best of the bunch.
So all 4 of them probably go. All 4 of them did well. All 4 of them, I think, have a shot to go in the top 10 picks.
Right.
So the Jets are right there on the fringes.
Right. They could definitely get it. They can definitely get a top lineman. There's no question.
Right. And the question is going to be, do you take the 3rd or 4th tackle or do you take the first receiver? That could be the question. And I think the Jets are going to be facing the reality that a lot of teams are, which is, and this could wind up hurting Jeudy and Lamb, where teams at the top of the draft are going to say, let's fill our pass rusher need or our tackle need or whatever it might be, and then go back in the second round and get a receiver there. And so, I think that there's a good potential it plays out the way you're kind of laying it out there, Mike, where they decide we're going to take our tackle there. I believe they're at 10 or 11, right? I think they're at 11.
And there's going to be a very good offensive lineman there for them for sure. And because the Giants are going to most likely take a defensive player on the first pick. I mean, that's going to be so the quarterbacks are going off. So you pretty much know that you're going to have the defensive guys and the quarterbacks off in the first 7 picks.
You have, you've got 4 elite defensive guys
and 3 quarterbacks.
And 3 quarterbacks,
Yep.
So you got Young, Derek Brown, Jeff Okudah,
and Simmons,
and Isaiah Simmons
yep.
as the defensive elite. Those 4, and then you got the 3 quarterbacks: Herbert, Tua, and of course Burrow.
Yep.
So those 7 go, and you're probably looking at least one of the tackles flipping to you. And I mean, yeah, Mike, like you said earlier, like I think there's a good chance the logic for the Jets is let's get our tackle in 11, and then we'll turn around and we can still get a really, really good.
Or maybe trade up, and then in the middle of the first round, still get the wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the makeup of this draft
because they need the wide receiver too.
And hey, Mike, if you want to look like seriously, like go back and look at the last few years. Teams have done this. This is another thing that I think is going to be at play. There have been some really good second-round receivers the last few years. Mike Thomas from New Orleans, DJ Chark from Jacksonville, the 2 Ole Miss kids last year. DK.
Hey, there's going to be stars at wide receiver this year in the second round. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And so the Jets could get their tackle in the first round and then get a really, really good receiver in the second round, no question.
All right, listen, good to talk to you. We'll talk again before the draft. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Albert Breer.